Got enough people to go ahead and call our January excuse me if I can stop coughing, NDO subcommittee meeting to order. So welcome everyone. We've got some new faces, but Wanda will wait until we get to your updates to do introductions. Is that how you want to do this? Sure, that's what we'll do. So because then we can kind of wrap it all in together. So very good. So let me tab over to my my agenda. I hope everyone had good holidays and got to take a little time off. Okay, so we are then skipping right into our NDO study report focus groups. And so yeah, not much to buffer today. So we're just going to jump right in, and we'll start with housing. And I know that there's a good chance that that we haven't gotten to a lot over the holidays, but we'll check in anyway and see how it goes. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, can I get a volunteer to do meeting minutes for today? Preferably someone who hasn't done it before. Okay, then maybe someone who has done it before. Okay, well then I will go back and watch the video later and try to do minutes from there. So last time I tried to do minutes during it, it was a fiasco. So so we'll plan on doing that, and I'll just send out a summary.
Josh, I'll just go ahead and do it today.
Oh, are you sure, Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, we need to have them done, and it's easier just doing them as we go along.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. So we will go ahead and start on the housing focus group, which is DeAndre, who's not here today, and Jake and Melissa and Mir, who are here today. So Jake, Melissa, Mir, do you guys have any updates for housing focus group?
Jake, we had our last meeting, you and I together in mid-December, I think. Would you mind just, I think you made some notes and maybe give an update on where we're at?
Sure. So the housing group we've had kind of monthly meetings in between the subcommittee meetings to move the work forward. And we're starting to feel like we're in a place that we've done about as much as we can in that space. So one thing we were talking about is maybe as a subcommittee, it's time to start doing kind of I don't know if we're using the term progress report, but to start kind of writing down what are some of the potential recommendations from the subcommittee and from each of the working groups within the subcommittee. So we can kind of start to document what do we want to recommend, what do we want to share. One notion we had is maybe in some of our future subcommittee meetings is maybe we could do kind of a flipped classroom model where we use some of the time when we're together to have the different working groups move their work forwards rather than necessarily relying on that work to be done in between meetings, just because folks are so busy and there's so much going on and COVID and holidays and everything else. So we thought maybe like if we could spend some of our future meetings using these as active working sessions, that might help us move the ball forward in some areas. I know that was one thing we discussed. I'm just looking back at my notes now to see if there's anything I missed. And of course, Melissa or Mir, feel free to chime in or add anything. Yeah, we talked about different things that we'd want to have in some kind of progress report related to some of the training ideas and to some of the like the Historic Resources Commission. I know we had a guest speaker there last month come from that space, so recommending collaborations there or potentially having the city council provide funding there, that could be a recommendation. We discussed the Rainbow Crosswalk as a kind of symbolic gesture the city could engage in to provide support. Maybe that could go into recommendation. Various awards or trainings or stickers or educational town hall. We had a lot of ideas that we've been building over the past several months, and we just wanted to start writing them down somewhere. So that was a part of it too. And then there were also a couple resources, and I'll drop these in the chat, that we've discussed before, but we just want to make sure with the new staff coming on board to help with the education and the outreach that's LGBTQ inclusive, that these resources were available. So I've dropped in the chat. The Safe Zone project was kind of a national LGBTQ resource. It's got some free information that can be incorporated into trainings. And then specifically, we found that Atlanta has a LGBTQ 101 for housing, shelters, that kind of situation training already available. So maybe some of that could be modified or used in some of the resources that the city is going to be using going forward. So that was a few things I want to make sure to share. But Mir or Melissa, did I miss anything? Mir, if your voice is not filling it, I'm happy to read whatever you said in the chat. Great.
Yeah, I think that we're just kind of, we feel like we're spinning wheels, that we're kind of talking about the same things over and over. So, you know, if we can get to the point where we can start drafting some of these things into recommendations so we can get started on that, I think would be good.
Okay, I really like the idea of maybe each meeting doing a focus on one of these focus groups so that we can get kind of the full groups back and forth and yeah, and like you were saying, maybe make some progress. So
and Commissioner Price and Commissioner Thompson and Jake, if I may make a recommendation, and Jake, to your point, I think that you and I must be very telepathic today, because my plan was to strongly recommend to you all that you begin with your recommendations, because you all, I mean, this group has been on point from day one in terms of what you already had in mind, and knowing what some of the resources are and knowing, you know, where some of the gaps are. I think at this point in time, and I think, Jake, it was you, or maybe it was Jerry, I can't remember. Somebody even pretty much predicted that you probably wouldn't need the whole 18 months to come up with what you need for your report. And I agree, you may not need the whole 18 months. And that's okay. But what I would strongly recommend for each of the focus groups is that, yes, you begin putting on paper exactly what your recommendations are for the report to the Human Relations Commission. I think that it would be a better use of your time to perhaps go ahead and assume that responsibility for the individualized focus group, so that we can have a draft report that you can review that way. Instead of maybe breaking it down for the 5 groups that you have, maybe every group just go ahead and take on reducing your thoughts to writing. And then we as staff can draft the report in a format that is amenable to the commission and to you all. And then you all can use the bulk of your time fine tuning that draft and getting it to a final format to send to the HRC. So that's what I would recommend you do. Of course, you know, that is totally up to you, it's within your discretion, but just wanted to just throw that out there. I do agree with housing, economic mobility, and, you know, and even outreach and city facilities, social services. Having Michelle McCullough up here last time talking about the historic resources and designations in the program, you can certainly, for instance, make that a part of your report. If you want to make that as a recommendation, then you can say, we recommend that the city of Winston-Salem look at designating X, Y, and Z, or at least initiating the process for designating X, Y, and Z as historic landmarks and so forth. I agree, I concur that you all are definitely at that point.
What then would be the best way to move forward, I wonder? I know we need to be careful about like official government records and documentation requirements in terms of like anything we put down in writing becomes public record and that kind of thing. Should we email these error findings into someone? Should we create our own Google Docs, each person? How should there be a centralized Google Doc that the city creates that we all just feed some information into? What's the best way for us to, and what's the best date for our first kind of filling it in? Maybe our February meeting, or as a information by?
Okay, Jake. Okay, so I feel like you asked me a bunch of questions all at once. So I'm trying to make sure I'm covering it all. So what I think is that if you all go ahead and reduce your thoughts to writing, you know, like you were talking about, and just bring that back to the next meeting, I think that suffices. And so we could even share screen, you know, we could, you know, whatever is needed to do, we could do that so that you all can discuss it in a transparent manner during these meetings that you have, but since these meetings are televised. And so I think that would be a very transparent way to do that. It would invite the public to be able to engage should they choose to offer input or feedback on some of the thoughts. That would be something that I think might be a good approach. And that way you don't have to worry about those very things that you mentioned about Google Docs and, okay, who can we email and does it need to be this and that? Yeah, if you just do it like that to begin with and maybe just have it out there for discussion in an open platform, that would probably be the best way to protect yourself in terms of making sure that you're not coming across as not being open. So that's what I would suggest, commissioners and members of the subcommittee, that each one of you, if you serve on these individual work groups, that you just be prepared maybe to bring some of your recommendations to the February meeting. And another thing I think that maybe you could consider is some type of timeline, like how long do you want to give yourselves to work on these recommendations? Is February too soon? Is that good timing for all of the work groups? Jake, I know with the housing work group, that would probably be fine for y'all, for instance, because y'all have done a lot of things already. But what about everybody else? Is that too soon?
That's just what I was going to get into, that I think for housing and maybe even for outreach visibility, that might be attainable. But I think for several of the other groups, we're probably not there, but we could come with what we have, even if it's not recommendations, and start to try to talk about that and see if some recommendations or some extra thoughts come out of the larger group. So I think it's a good time to kind of step up our engagement on that. So I agree that we come with what we've got, and if it's recommendations, great. And if it's questions, that's fine too.
Right, and even if it's not recommendations, like you said, perhaps it could just be a matter of identifying gaps. Like for instance, if you see that there are certain things that could be addressed, and maybe you don't know how to address it, and that's okay, but at least maybe you could come forward with, okay, we see gaps in service in this area, or we see gaps in resources or whatever in that area. You know, just pointing out where those things are, and then the whole group can collectively perhaps come up with some recommendations for those.
That sounds good. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Okay, any other kind of thoughts about bringing questions and recommendations and such to the February meeting before we move on? Okay, then we shall move on. So our next focus group is economic mobility. There's an issue here, of course, and that Clinton was part of economic mobility and needed to drop from the subcommittee. And Jerry has been having trouble making it to the meetings. I meant to send him a reminder and I didn't, so that's on me, but I'll try to be better about that for the February meeting. But we could probably use another person on economic mobility if there is any interest, if anyone has that capacity. And then that also said, Wanda, I think you were just about to talk to this. I know we had reached out to alternates about filling Clint's spot. Have we gotten any feedback on that?
We have not gotten any confirmations from the alternates about having an interest in, serving.
Okay.
But at this point in time, Commissioner Price, I think that in terms of economic mobility, if that's one of those things where maybe there's a shortage from the subcommittee for serving and providing these ideas or recommendations, that may be something that the collective could do, like all of you. Okay. Could just, again, brainstorm, come up with some areas that you might have observed, and maybe you would recommend just in general terms, some economic mobility types of things to address.
That makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Any other thoughts on economic mobility? Then we will move to outreach visibility. And Amaris, it looks like you were the only one up from outreach visibility, so you're the lucky party.
All right. Good afternoon. So over this past month, Dre and I had some communication, and we scheduled a meeting, but we ended up not being able to meet. So we haven't spoken collectively, but I know that he has been looking into some things, and what I've really spent my time looking into was just how, other municipalities have implemented programs for visibility, even if it's just like the I guess the very obvious day of visibility type observances that some municipalities have put into place in different parts of the country, but also programs, that, like there are certain programs that businesses can opt into where they just receive a sticker that they can put on their front window to say that they're a welcoming place. And there are programs like that exist that could be just made known to different businesses, or have something or develop something similar that could be, Winston-Salem's own. So those are just some of the things that I've been looking into, particularly on my own this month. And I know that Dre had some things that he was looking into as well. So I think by February, we would be at least able to put together, a list of these things and maybe kind of expound on it more, even if it's just, seeds of ideas and not at the point of this is our recommendation that we would like in the report. I don't think we would be there, but I think we can have something that can be transparently presented in a clear way.
That sounds great. Okay, wonderful. Any questions for Amaris? Okay. The next focus group is city facilities, and that's myself. And I unfortunately have not followed up on city facilities in the last month. So where we left that after our December meeting was I was going to try to put together kind of a list of the facilities that we might want to get actual eyes on. And maybe see if a few people had kind of mentioned that they would volunteer to help, to assist in physically going to places and seeing kind of like what the bathroom situation is, what the accessibility situation is, that type of stuff. So because there was not, unfortunately, any kind of listing available from the city on that. So I haven't followed up on that, but that is on my to-do list for next month. Our next one was social services. Dre and I have not spoken on that, but we had split up kind of the list of social services to each look into. So I don't know if he's made any progress. I heard back from family services. So I'd reached out to family services to see what programs they had to offer. And of course, family services is a county-run operation. And so we would not have any authority or recommending, power over them at all. But it was essentially to find out what services are already available right here in Winston-Salem, so that if we were focusing on any kind of recommendations, we would know what's already out there, and we could steer into things that aren't available. And what I heard back from them is that from their safe relationship department, interpersonal violence services are available to everyone, regardless of how they identify, of course. However, we do have a victim advocate who identifies as LGBTQ+ and is highly trained in the area of advocacy for special populations. Her work focuses on assisting and advocating for historically underserved populations, such as LGBTQ+, survivors, and increasing the agency's capacity to serve these clients. So they have some focus, even if it's not labeled as such, for their safe relationship department. And then from their counseling department, they said that they didn't have anything specific, that they aren't aware of a certification for LGBTQ counseling, but that they did attend with some of their safe relationship staff specialized ethics training that kind of surrounded the LGBTQ plus community in May of 2019. And says that they feel that they're well equipped to serve the LGBTQ plus community. So, so some counseling and some safe relationship, but it doesn't sound like it's like a lot of formal, just kind of individual focuses and keeping it, keeping the thought process there to make sure that they are available to serve of the broader community, but not like particular classes, particular certifications, stuff like that. Any questions or thoughts around that?
Josh, it looks like Mir has a question for you in the chat.
Oh, Mir has a question for me in the chat. Anyone know if the police always brought in, are always brought in if the safe relationship folks are contacted? I don't know, so that's a good question I can follow up with. And then recent lenders are engaged. Okay. Yeah, that is a really good question to ask Mir.
And unfortunately, Mir, I don't know the answer to that either. I don't know if Adolfo or Iris may know anything that I don't in terms of whether or not the police would automatically be brought in whenever there is contact made with the safe relationship folks. I just don't know the answer to that. I really don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Price, boss. What I was going to say is that Bridges to Hope is an organization that deals with domestic violence, and they are now a county-based, and they have, my understanding is that there is always a police officer or a sheriff present in their facility at all times. So I don't know if that will mean that every single time that there will be a police officer involved, but I know that they have partnered with the police department and the city of Winston-Salem and the sheriff's department, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Department, and at all times there will be either a police officer or a sheriff in their facility.
Okay.
Thanks, Adolfo. And I think the safe relationships, is that a specific program? If so, that may be a program that's under family services. I was assuming it was, but.
It is as far as I know.
Okay, because if it is, yeah, I'm not sure about that specific program, but Adolfo is absolutely correct about the Bridges of Hope program.
Bridges of Hope, okay.
Yes, the new department that's under the Forsyth County government. Okay.
Well, and it sounds like, and Mir, I don't want to speak for you, but like that your question is kind of has both sides to it. That maybe we want a resource where the police aren't always called in, where there is a resource that people could go to without immediately getting the police involved. And of course vice versa. You might want a resource you could go to where the police are always involved right away, right off the bat. So. Okay, yeah, thank you. that is more what Mir was getting at. So that is an interesting thought and a really good question to ask. And I can follow up with family services about that. So that'll be cool. Okay, thank you for that those questions and extra input. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Jake. I'm just gonna quick read it. Okay, very good. Any other questions or thoughts around social services? Okay, well, Director Ellen Abraha, the floor is yours for all of your new and exciting changes.
How exciting indeed, yes. So I am really happy to introduce to you all, finally, y'all know that since your inception for sure, we have been talking about when the new NDOs come on board. I told Eleanor and Rashonta both that we were referring to them as the NDOs. And so we said, when the two new NDOs come on board, we're going to do this and we're going to have them do that and we're going to tell them this and blah, blah, blah. So finally that day has come. And both Eleanor Tebbetts and Rashonta Robinson began their time with us on December the 27th. And so, yeah, so they've been here, what, a full week and a half almost, or so, something like that.
They're experts.
They are experts indeed. And the great thing is, Josh, they do bring a wealth of experience with them. Eleanor is a recent graduate of Wake Forest University School of Law, and she's also worked with the city previously through an internship with our Human Resources Department, where she was exposed to a lot of different types of things pertaining to complaint processes and investigations, including grievances. And so we're happy to have her, as well as Rashonta Robinson, who hails from Guilford County. And she has a very strong background in investigations and outreach. But I'm stealing their thunder. I would like for them to give you all some more information about who they are and what their respective roles will be here with the city. So who would like to start with some self-introductions? Thank you, Shanta.
Hello, everyone. I am Rashonta Robinson. I'm an NDO. I hear you have been patiently or impatiently waiting for our arrival, and we are very, very happy to be here. Again, as Wanda said, I am from Guilford County, Greensboro, North Carolina in particular. I'm very excited to be here. I hear that you all are doing some very, very important work, and I am very happy to be on board to listen and take in, and to I want you guys to help us help you. So again, very happy to be in this space, and nice to meet all of you.
And Jake, I think you were copied on an email, maybe. I think I sent that email. I don't know if I'm coming or going half the time, but I intended to send an email, if I didn't, to Equality North Carolina about the fact that Rashonta and Eleanor are now on board. And that I know Equality NC, thanks to you, Jake, reached out saying that they wanted to work with us to craft some training modules. Is that correct? And I don't know what else you talked to them about, Jake. That's what I'm remembering.
Yeah, they were definitely interested in collaborating. I don't think I've seen the email specifically, just I'm still digging out from my holiday inbox, so it may be a while before I get to it. But yeah, I know they're very interested in collaborating, and they have a local triad civic engagement area staffer, as well as their kind of education director for the state, Rebby, who's really great as well. So I know there's multiple folks who are interested in supporting this effort.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you, Shanta. Eleanor, you're up.
Hi, like Wanda said, I recently graduated from Wake Forest School of Law, and this is exactly the kind of work that I wanted to do since I started law school. So I'm really excited to be here. I will mostly be working as an investigator, but I'm also helping with outreach, particularly providing some of the legal background in the training materials, because that's sort of my area of specialty. I took a lot of discrimination classes because this was what I wanted to do. So like I said, yay, I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you, Eleanor. And
yes,
so
welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
And so we're leaning heavily on you all, on this subcommittee in particular, to help them in terms of where focus should be. You know, starting out, they are working on a plan of action. They're working on kind of like a roadmap for what priorities need to be and look like, in addition to, of course, taking on the complaints that we may receive and investigating those. And so again, I've already told them that you all have a wealth of knowledge and you have a wealth of experience. And of course, you all have resources and you know people in the community who may be able to help to get the word out to businesses and organizations about our two new non-discrimination ordinances pertaining to employment and public accommodations discrimination. And so we do want everyone to be aware of the fact that these ordinances are now effective. They became effective on January 1st, so it's only been a few days. But we want to definitely not stall our efforts in terms of letting people know and educating them in terms of what the expectations are, what the law says, and then also what the recourses are. So we hope that you all will enthusiastically work with our two new NDOs. And that was all I had, Commissioner Price.
That's all?
That's all, because I think you all met Brittany already, and
We did.
you know Iris, and you know Jamie, and you know Carlin, and yeah, you know everybody else, and Adolfo.
Very good. Okay, our next agenda item is community updates and events. Does anyone have anything they would like to share that's going on?
Jamie, do we have anything that we need to mention to the group in particular that's coming up with our departmental outreach?
A lot of our stuff is virtual right now. But we do have an in-person thing that's with our employees next Friday. So that's for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr Helping Hands Day, where our city employees go out and volunteer. Fingers crossed, nothing will change between now and next Friday and we can do it. But we have already, just as I've been in this meeting, had a change. So it's happening that fast, right? And then February, we celebrate Black History Month along with our Human Relations Month. So we have our student banquet, and we will have a showcase of song, music, clip video program on TV 13. So.
And I guess, Jamie, more immediately, we will be recognizing our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr Young Dreamers. That is something the Human Relations Commission does annually, where they recognize people from the community between the ages of 18 and 40 who exemplify the ideals and the practices of Dr. King. So all kinds of non-discrimination oriented work and work ethics, people who have just done exceedingly well and gone above and beyond. 2 people are selected each year. And like I said, they're between the ages of 18 and 40. We usually try to do 2 people only. And they're recognized at the city council meeting, and they're also recognized during the Winston-Salem Chronicles annual Dr. King breakfast, which is also virtual. So I think the date, we're closed on that, right, Jamie? Is it too late to submit nominees?
We are closed on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But that will be televised if you all happen to watch the city council meeting on January the 18th.
That sounds great. Anything else anyone would like to share? Okay, well, go ahead, Jake.
I just dropped in the chat. Queer Winston-Salem's a local LGBTQ kind of events planning group, and they've got some events in the works. So I dropped a link there. Folks want to see what's going on there. More broadly speaking, it sounds like the new folks are local, so you know what's up with the local queer community already. But I was just going to mention our Pride got delayed from October to June, so that's something to be thinking about in June. I know North Star is hopeful to do our usual alternate prom or alt prom, or maybe around May, but I don't know if that's going to be feasible and safe this year or not, but that's a thing we're hoping to put together for May. And then of course our annual Queer International LGBTQ Film Festival is usually kind of late September, early October. So we have all of those coming up throughout the year. But Queer Winston-Salem, I think, has the next events up that I know of.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, well, for the February meeting, please try to remember to, and this is for me, possibly more so than anyone else, to come with either recommendations or questions or thoughts about your programs or other programs. Please take a moment to give economic mobility a special set of thoughts in your mind, so that we have something to discuss there. I will try to remember to reach out to Jerry, but anyone who knows him or sees him or anything, please don't be afraid to poke him and give him a reminder. And otherwise, I will see everyone in February. Any last thoughts? Well, thanks so much for your participation and engagement today. So much welcome to Eleanor and Rashonta, and I will look forward to talking to everyone next month. Take care.
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.